says he's going to do land use and zoning, but I'm not going to do
That's
that.
right.
So
No, we use that one.
We'll probably.
Sure.
Good evening, everyone, and welcome to the September 14th, 2023 Site Plan Review Committee, SPRC subgroup meeting for the Red Lion Hotel site. We'll be holding a hybrid public meeting which enables remote electronic participation as legally authorized by the Code of Virginia per the Planning Commission's electronic meeting policy adopted on July 7th, 2022. Members of the SPRC subgroup for the Red Lion Site Plan Amendment are participating both here in person and virtually through electronic means. At this time, I'd like to orient everyone to our hybrid environment and cover a few specifics about how tonight's meeting will run. Members of the public may attend the meeting here in person or electronically by using the Microsoft Teams link provided on the SPRC webpage, the project webpage, the county's events calendar, and the email notification sent to SPRC email subscribers. Additionally, there is a dial-in phone option for those who wish to use it. For our subgroup members joining virtually, if anyone loses internet connectivity during today's meeting, please reconnect with us by phone. Please keep your phones and devices muted until you are called upon. Turn off sound in any devices around you to minimize interference. For our virtual attendees using Microsoft Teams, please turn off your video feed. I will address when it is appropriate to turn it on in a moment. For Microsoft Teams, meeting chat is active to serve two purposes: for SPRC subgroup members who need technical assistance and for members of the public to add their names to the list for public comment, which will be taken at the end of the meeting. The Teams chat should not be used for discussion. Those who were planning to provide public comment will still need to do so at the end of the meeting, as the chat will not serve as that opportunity. All public comments must be shared verbally for the record during the assigned public comment period. Additional notes for the SPRC subgroup members: if subgroup members participating virtually wish to be recognized to speak on an item during the course of the meeting, please turn on your video feed and raise the virtual hand in Teams. I will monitor the video feeds that are on as an indicator of who would like to speak. If subgroup members are participating via phone today without the video option, please announce your name and group you are representing now, and I will verbally check in to see if you wish to be recognized, as you do not have the video feed option. So we have anybody here? All right. Additional notes for our members of the public who would like to provide feedback and comments. For our members of the public who would like to provide feedback and comment, you will be called on to speak at the end of the meeting and will be allotted 2 to 3 minutes to speak on tonight's agenda item. The speaking time allotted will depend on the number of speakers we have this evening. If you wish to speak, please enter your name in the meeting chat for virtual attendees or provide staff with your name if in person, and you will be added to the speakers list. Lastly, this is a public forum. Today's meeting will be recorded and posted to the county website. All information associated with today's meeting, whether written or spoken, is subject to the Freedom of Information Act requirements. So I'm going to go around and let everybody introduce themselves. My name is Leah Bagley. I'm a planning commissioner, and I'm also the chair for this project.
Eric Berkey with the Planning Commission.
Nick Cummings with Walsh Colucci. I'm a land use attorney and I'm representing the applicant on this.
Tyler Ware, developer.
Leslie Armansky representing the Blvd.
Stuart Stein representing Raycom from the Fort Myers Heights.
Karen Gavato, Planning Commission.
Tony Strider, I'm with the Planning Commission.
I'm Leo Sarli with the Planning Commission.
Kate Donahue, Forestry and Natural Resources Commission.
Jim Lantelmi, Planning Commission.
Jane Kim, DES.
Adam Watson, CPHD Planning, and just because they're online, we also have Chris Kreider joining us from Planning and Emily Garrett as well.
Wonderful. Do we have anybody else who should be at the table that is online? Here, have you seen anyone?
No.
Trying to remember initials here because it's out.
I don't see.
Okay, great. So let's.
Oh, with the Climate Change, Energy, Environment Commission, I don't know.
You should, yes, you should.
Yeah.
Yes, please. And if you wouldn't mind, since I'm getting older now, if you fill out one of those cards that's in front of you, there's pens over here just so we know your name. And your name again is?
Rob Sandoli.
So we'll start with you, Pierre, on the rest of the room.
Pierre Joliker, I'm Associate Planner, Arlington County PhD.
Kevin Pennington, I'm an architect
representing the applicant.
Bernie Suggesito, I'm a land use planner with Walsh Colucci.
Roland Baker, and owner of the Belvede.
Kenny with counsel to Belvede.
Barnes Lawson, council to Belvede.
And over here. Over here,
Ryan Orr with Four Partners Development.
right?
David Orr, Four Partners.
Okay, so again, thank you for everyone who is attending tonight. We are going to start first with a staff presentation.
Great, thank you. Share my screen. Make this bigger so you can see. Okay, thanks everybody. Again, my name is Adam Watson. I'm with Current Planning and Planning Division of CPHD, Arlington County. I'm going to actually just skip this agenda because it will be pretty apparent what we're going to talk about here over the next couple slides. Advance. Okay, so the site we're here to discuss this evening is 1501 Arlington Boulevard. Those who participated in the site plan process the last time around will recall that the site at that time and the existing entitlement that's still valid includes Ellis Arms Apartments and the existing Red Lion Hotel. The applicant is now expanding that site area to include the Williamsburg Apartments that are at the far west side of this site. So behind the property, we have Park Roslyn Apartments and the Belvedere condominiums as well. So our general land use plan has designated this site as high-medium residential. And it's almost impossible to read if you're in the room, but down there, the corresponding zoning district is RA 4.8. We'll come back to that in a minute. But there's also note 13 on this property, which is the Special Affordable Housing Protection District. And we'll talk more about that at our next SPRC meeting. But ultimately, when this item comes before the county board, there will also be a general land use plan or GLUP amendment to add note 13 to this corner here to fill in the gap, so to speak. In terms of our overarching land use policy guidance, we have the Roslyn Station Area Plan Addendum from 1992. It does not provide any site-specific guidance for this property, but does include some overall objectives that we're going to be using to evaluate this project, which includes creating a more urban form, increasing opportunities for housing, and providing an integrated system of transportation that emphasizes a multimodal approach. And for those who are wondering, this site is outside of the 2015 Roslyn Sector Plan Study area. So the applicant is proposing to rezone the blue area here from RAH to RA 4.8. And 2 slides ago on the glove side, I mentioned RA 4.8. That is consistent with the general land use plan. So from a land use perspective, the applicant's proposed rezoning is consistent with the general land use plan. The development summary, I'm going to go over this briefly because I know the applicant will talk more about this in their presentation. But again, this would essentially expand the existing site plan to add in the Williamsburg apartment site area. We're looking at a total of 446 dwelling units at a density of 4.59 FAR total. In terms of parking spaces, 255 spaces, that's 0.57 spaces per dwelling unit residential. The applicant is voluntarily going to participate in the green building incentive policy and will do legal construction at the 0.35 FAR level, which includes a number of other things that we will talk again at the next meeting with bird-friendly materials, a certain amount of EV parking, energy performance metrics that again we'll cover in more detail the next meeting. They'll also be complying with our Special Affordable Housing Protection District, which we'll also talk about next meeting, but in a nutshell, that calls for replacing the units or bedrooms that are to be demolished in the Ellis Arms and Williamsburg buildings and replacing them on site. There are a couple of zoning modifications for additional density, reduced parking and loading requirements, and exclusions of below-grade mechanical and storage space. I'll note this proposal does not include the Arlington Boulevard Trail capital project across the street. That is a capital project that the county is undergoing base engineering for right now. However, the applicant's design is working in tandem with us and is not going to preclude any elements of that as it moves forward. In terms of zoning compliance, so the proposal overall does comply with the provisions of the RI 4.8 multi-family dwelling district. Obviously, this is the multiple family dwelling district, and a multiple family residential use is allowed here. The height of the building is proposed to be 75 feet, and that is substantially less than the district maximum, which is 136 feet. In terms of density, they are above the base 3.24 FAR density level. However, the applicant is going to be working with us as allowed in the zoning ordinance for the county board to approve additional density above that base in exchange for things such as the sustainable building design. In terms of the building massing and architecture, some things that we'd be curious to hear from you tonight that we've been working with the applicant on. And I'll just take, these are three of the big things. This western corner of the building here, we're looking into whether or not there's a possibility or potential for this area to sort of keep the columns in place, but open up the building a little bit to sort of have more of an open vestibule, because this is an entry point here for the bike room further up in the building. So this is one area where staff is looking. Transformer door treatment. You have 3 transformer doors at grade along Fairfax Drive. The applicant is going to be, I intentionally did not want to steal their thunder, so they are going to have a slide where they'll show you some precedent images of how they're proposing to treat these doors. And so we'll want your feedback on that. And then lastly, there's quite a bit of fiber cement used as a facade material in the upper levels of this building. And we're working with the applicant to see if we can't replace that by adding a little bit more brick or metal or something a little bit better than fiber cement, not to knock it. But that is, those are some of the 3 main topics that we're working on, and we'd love to hear more from you tonight in the discussion. I'll briefly go over community engagement. We did have our online feedback back in July and August. We had 73 participants. Thank you, everyone who participated. Community outreach, we have Radnor Fort Myers Heights here at the table. Belvedere condominiums are represented here. We'll keep trying to reach out to the Park Roslyn apartments, and if there's anybody online from Park Roslyn, please let us know. In terms of additional promotion, we put this on the Arlington Engage webpage. We have an e-newsletter and social media, and we do a bilingual flyer. In addition to some special considerations, we have reached out with some tenants of the Williamsburg apartments about tenant relocation, which again, we'll talk about at the next SPRC meeting, but we heard from them during the online engagement, and we'll continue to reach out to them. Public review process. We are at the first SPRC meeting. Tonight we'll be talking about land use, building massing and height, and architecture. At the next meeting, which is on October 19th, we will be talking about housing, transportation, landscaping and biophilia, and then community benefits and construction. Community benefits would include sustainability elements as well, I would add. Okay, that is all from me. Again, my name is Adam Watson, and my contact information is on this presentation. So if anybody needs to get in touch, you know where to find me. And I will pivot to Mr. Cummings. Do you want me to run the presentation slide?
Perfect. I think if Kevin could take your seat or slide in, that might help, because he's going to cover after me.
Sure. Does he need to present a separate presentation or no?
This. What we sent you, what you got is good.
Okay.
Chris Slatt has joined us.
Okay.
So I'm just going to go ahead and start talking while Kevin gets settled in there. But good evening, everyone. Again, Nick Cummings with Walsh Colucci. You're representing the applicant. I'm going to introduce the site. I'm going to give you some brief background before the design team, represented here by Kevin Pennington, presents the site design and building architecture. The first slide, once Kevin gets to it, is a shot of the existing site. It's a little hard to read from here, but we did label the various portions of the assemblage. A is the existing Red Lion Hotel that has about 125 rooms. It was originally constructed in the 1950s and substantially renovated in the 1980s. B and C, which again are almost impossible to read from here if you're sitting where I'm sitting, are the Ellis Arms, which would be B, and then C is the Williamsburg Apartments. And those are the 2 1950s construction 14-unit apartment buildings with the market rate affordable units in them that we would be replacing pursuant to the SAHPD. Many of you may recall, as Adam cited, that we have a prior site plan approval for this site that did include just the Ellis Arms and the existing hotel. The approval was to replace the hotel with a new hotel and to build a much smaller residential building in place of the Ellis Arms. The former owner, who's now actually partnered with Four Partners on this specific project, really did want to build the prior approval, but due to the COVID pandemic and just the changing nature of the market, it really became infeasible to go ahead with hotel construction, and then much more appealing to potentially look at all residential development across this entire site. And then, of course, one exciting thing that we were able to do here, just with various properties changing hands in the county, was to add the Williamsburg Apartments, which then is kind of the final piece of the puzzle to fill out this assemblage and consolidate what remains of this block, for lack of a better term, really running from the Belvedere to that intersection there right near the Park Roslyn, just able to really kind of fill out and redevelop all of this older construction, bring a much higher efficiency. So Adam addressed zoning, but of course we're proposing to rezone this entire site to RA 4.8. That will be consistent with the law. Flip to the next slide. So this is existing conditions, and I think is almost exactly what Adam just showed. I'll just briefly note that obviously these are these older buildings, supported in part by a sea of surface parking. The site is largely paved over with a few trees on some of the edges still living today. You can move to the next slide. So Kevin will talk more about what we're doing with the building, but here's another existing condition. It's actually kind of exciting. The underground garage, I know, exciting, right? The underground garage is going to be reused with this application. That's something that we don't often see and something that we did not try to do with the previous approval that actually included a parking garage at the rear of the site that was partially above grade. So instead, with this application, we're going to reuse the existing below grade garage. There will be some parking that is above the grade of Fairfax, but it will all be fully wrapped by the building and well below the grade of 16th Street. Go to the next slide. This is the basics of our proposal. I'm not going to recite all these numbers, but you can obviously see here that, like Adam referenced, we are participating in the Green Building Incentive Program at the 0.35 FAR level. To my knowledge, it's actually the highest tier that folks have hit so far in the GBI. So that is a fairly aggressive set of green building elements. And we'll talk about that in the next meeting. The total proposed density, reflects the fact that we are proposing 446 units on site. We have 97,000 square feet of bonus density to earn with community benefits. It's a good number of units, and we're really excited to bring that to the community, especially with a building design that helps reduce the impact on the surrounding structures, minimize the impacts to their existing views and all that, just because it's not quite as tall as it could be, but certainly still delivering a good number of units and really filling the gap here with a lot of much needed housing in Arlington County. So with that, I'm going to yield to Kevin and run through the rest of the slides and tell you about the building design.
Okay, great. Thank you, Nick. So this slide shows the basic site plan overall. You can see it from the roof as the bird's flying over it. The main features of the building is it's pushing towards the edge of the site, but remaining back from the adjacent properties. You can see we're back from the Belvedere, from the 16th Street line, and from the Park Roslyn on all sides except for the one corner, if I can point to it, at this western edge. And on that edge, we're pushing up tight to the property line. Showing on the roof plan, you can see that there is a roof level observation deck. We have a center contemplative courtyard. Over on the east side, we have a pool deck facing south to maximize our sun exposure. And then on the far west side, there's a triangular shaped, it's a small courtyard, and that's actually where we're doing our bioretention for the site. Also up on the roof, I should mention that in this area, there is a dog park that the tenants would be able to access as well. Looking at the site sections, you can get a sense of the amount of hillside that we're contending with as you come from the lower edge along Fairfax Drive. The site goes up about 3.5 floors to the 16th Street side. So that's how most of the parking garage is actually tucked into the deck. You can start seeing that existing parking garage is tucked down and being reused. That's quite a challenge, and we're pleased that we're able to do that. we're reusing the existing structure and pushing it up through to the new building to re-support that. And then on this edge, you can see our separation from the Park Roslyn site. In the background, you can see the Belvedere on this upper slide. And we come in at around their fourth floor level with our roof. I think it's the fourth of their occupied floors. And you know, on the 16th Street side, they have their garage entrance, which is what the private drive is mostly accessed for.
There's some height data in there that you're just not going to be able to see, but if we want to talk numbers later, we can zoom in if anyone's interested in, the height of the Park Roslyn, the height of the Belvedere, the height of our building.
Over on the right side of this upper site section, you can see the Belvedere pool deck and this location relative to our own pool deck in that eastern courtyard. This elevation's looking, as you're coming, sort of the view as you're coming out of DC, coming down Arlington Boulevard and looking at it from the southeast, looking towards the west, northwest. And we thought it was important to do something interesting along this corner of the building. So we rotated it slightly and tried to create some interest. And opening it up this way allowed for better views from the residents that are in this portion of the building, the center of the courtyard, that would be overlooking the pool below and be able to see past the eastern corner of the building into the District of Columbia. You start getting a sense of the street activation that we're proposing along through here. This first level is the existing garage, so we're limited as to what we can do to activate it. So we're looking at a series of high-quality materials, high-quality masonries to allow for some openings into the garage for ventilation, but also just create that interest along the street front. We have some other slides that will show that in a little bit more detail. You can see the bridge here that is an existing pedestrian bridge crossing the Arlington Boulevard. And there is a bike path upgrade that's planned. It's not part of this project, but it's going to be happening along this median strip. We're not showing exactly what that is because I don't believe it's exactly known at this point, but that's going to be.
We did work very hard with the county to ensure that we were accommodating the amount of right-of-way that they needed to build that improvement. And we were kind of building the train while it was on the tracks a bit because we had submitted this application. And then the county was kind of catching up to, decide exactly how they wanted those public improvements to work. So we did a redesign before we even came into all of you to help accommodate that. And while painful, we were happy to do it to help, improve the public realm outside the building.
I should point out this tree on the right. That's drawn correctly. It might even be a little bit taller than what's actually shown. And we're able to save that tree. It's on the Belvedere site, but because of the way that we're reusing the existing garage, there won't be any impact to the root system of that tree. So we're really happy to do that. There's, it's definitely a beautiful tree to keep. Looking from the southwest side to the intersection of North Pierce and Fairfax Drive. Again, you can see the bridge on the right. This is the corner that was mentioned before, and we are looking at ways that could potentially be opened up. We do think there's the potential to do something with it. You can't really see the loading dock, the transformer doors, but I believe there's a slide later in here where we can get into that more. But we're proposing balconies on a certain number of the units along this side. The nicer views are more towards the north side and the Hillside Park. Zooming in on the main entrance, one of the things that's driving the this entrance being where it is the site constraints. Reusing the existing garage limited us to entering the garage near the mid-block, just to the east of the mid-block, and that became the natural place for us to set the main entrance. And then over on the far left side, you can start seeing where the 3 transformer doors are, the loading dock door, and then this is the residential leasing and lobby office. There should be a lot of activation on this side, up on this level, the third level up. You can see all the glass that's on the inside, amenity space. The owner is committed to doing, a lot of nice amenity space for the project. It's very important to them. And we're looking at a 3-story communicating stair from the first level up to the third floor. Looking at the 16th Street side, this is all private drive leading to the Belvedere. We are looking at putting the major amount of balconies as much as we can facing the park on this side. You can see some of the existing trees along the street front there, the private drive that we're looking to keep. So when we were challenged with doing something for the transformer doors, we were scratching our head how we do it. One of the challenge of that is it is a transformer door and it does need to breathe. So we have to open it up. It needs a lot of air for it to naturally ventilate. So what we are proposing is taking the trees that are found in the hillside park, which are, hickory trees, red oaks. I think there's some plum trees up there, but we're looking at taking those species of trees and etching them in to the aluminum doors for these transformer bulbs. So it's going to be a series of solid and open areas to help achieve the amount of volume of air that we need to ventilate those transformers. And I think we can show more examples if staff wants to see it, but we're pretty excited about being able to do something like that. We've done some additional studies on it as well. Touching back on this, parking has to enter in this location. It's practically the only place, it is virtually the only place it can enter based on the existing garage that we have to keep. Things really just laid themselves out as they could only be. And we needed the lobby and leasing area down here on the ground level, mid-block activation, and then the hill starts going up as you move to the west. And when you exit out of this corner, you're on the second floor. So there was only a certain amount of space to work on that first level to get the 3 needed transformers, the loading berth with 2 loading spaces, and the amount of lobby leasing space that's required to serve the building. That's it.
Okay.
Thank you. So, tonight we're not talking about transportation, we're not talking about community benefits, biophilia, any of those things, but we are talking about first land use. So I'd like to open it up to anyone who has a question, comment, anything about land use. And I do want to recognize Chris Slatt from Transportation Commission has joined us. Is there anyone else here who has joined us?
I don't see.
Okay, great. Okay. All right, so any comments about land use, including ground floor uses, primary entrances?
Yes, so if we could pull that up again. I'm a little concerned with where.
Sorry, let me just share it with everybody else. I'm sorry.
Yeah. I'm a little concerned with where the front entrance of the building is. I spent a lot of time with the Gables building that's down the street, and it's very annoying, we'll say, to walk all the way down the hill. And a lot of the foot traffic that's going to be coming to this building is going to be coming from Wilson Boulevard, that corridor that's towards the back of this building, where there aren't really any primary entrances. And I know that there are limitations with the site, but putting the entrance on Route 50 there, where honestly not a lot of people are going to be coming from, I think that that's a concern that I'm seeing. It's just off of that. I really like the design of otherwise though.
I'd love to answer that. So if, and I can tell that the folks from the Belvedere brought more lawyers than we did, are itching here because it's a 16th Road and it, Adam, you can help me here.
Yeah.
16th Road is public to the point where Adam is going to identify.
Right.
And then after that, it's just private driveway.
Yeah.
That label for trash and receiving access is really just a note for like, we have an easement right for the existing building, but we're gonna be doing trash in the loading dock like we're expected to with the conditions and stuff. But we do have the right to just trash pickup and restaurant delivery, which is in an easement from, way back when.
Sure.
So it is not possible to brand the building to phase 16 because we don't have the right to do that. It's private property there. So the entrance does have to be in the sort of rough zone of where it is.
Right.
And what Kevin was getting at is that once you lay it out, once you look at the grade, once you look at where the transformers need to go, you look at the parking garage entrance needs to be to use the existing garage, to save all that concrete. To say, I mean, it's good for the environment and it's good for us, but there's really not a great other location.
Yeah, that makes sense. Will there be a back door that they could sort of use their fobs to
We're
get in?
looking at creative ways, and Barnes is one of the lawyers for the Belvedere to maybe accommodate that without touching the Belvedere property, but there's not really anything I can share right now.
Yeah, because I mean, that would just make sense to me, because if you live there, you're coming back from work.
We had the same conversation
That's right.
in 2019, and it would be, desirable, but we need to work it out in a way that respects our neighbors' property rights and coordinates with them. So
Someone else along this side?
I just would make one comment if I can. From the Belvedere's perspective, that area that is characterized as trash and recycling accesses, we have a different view of what those easement rights are. I will tell you the concern that the Belvedere has expressed consistently, and we've had a good working relationship with the ORD people, is the Belvedere driveway. It's really not correctly labeled when you come toward the Belvedere side of North Pierce Street. It's really the Belvedere driveway is really a safety concern, particularly in the winter months when it's dark. We just don't want a situation where we have accidents, people walking in the driveway, dogs walking in the driveway. So the Belvedere, the board has considered this in some long discussion, that area really is not something that we want to engage in this process, just for the safety issue. That's the primary concern.
So I appreciate that comment, but what we need to do here at the table is the Belvedere representative is Leslie. So any comments moving forward for the discussion here at the table, you'll have ample opportunity later. So
I just wanted to address the legal point about
I
this.
appreciate that. Jim?
Is massing allowed? We're talking about that now as part of it?
Well, we're talking about land use, building, massing, and architecture. We started with land use.
Okay, I mean, the zoning is fine. I don't have any concerns about the change of zoning. It's consistent with the club. It's what's there. It's not gonna have a hotel. We don't need to do that hotel zoning. So it's pretty easy.
Yes.
Okay, fine.
Right. Yes.
So if we want to move on, then I know other things.
Okay, do we have any other comments about, go ahead.
I do have,
Go ahead,
I
Leslie.
just wanted to expand on the comments of council is that even the 150 feet from North Pierce Street to our property line, we have an easement there that's for our use. So basically, we have a driveway from the garage entrance to the street for our use.
Thank you. Stuart, you got a comment?
Yeah, I was going to say, it's interesting when looking at the addendum, which I've read many, many times over these years, to remember that it's a very different time. Very different measures, very different mitigations. It was a time, and by the way, it's referred to here as medium methods. One of the street systems, tapering, which is a tremendous effect of whatever we do. And I think that would, as you go along Fairfax, you see how well these heights relate all the way up to Road Street. What seems out of place is some of the large square structures that come into play in the years since. But also another thing to remember, and that has to do, I think, a lot with setbacks and when we look at Arlington Boulevard and Fairfax. And I just wish, well, we all wish, I'm sure, that Carrie Johnson was here to remind us all of what the vision of what Arlington Boulevard, never would want to air Route 50, could be. as a place that integrated various communities, various heights as you got closer to Roslyn, but acted as more of a grand boulevard, a gateway to the nation's capital, to the parklands, to the access. And as we lost a lot of that, unfortunately, the very protracted negotiations for the North Fort Meyer Heights study, and a lot of the compromises, same something, we lost a lot of, but some of the visions that were talked about back then were Fairfax as a front yard, this idea of setbacks, the idea of cafes, something along those lines. So anything that can be done, we certainly support anything that can be done as far as setbacks, sidewalks, something that's more really a whole street instead of just saying whole street. And do remember that, again, it's different framework when you're talking in the intent. But when they talk, but this street is considered urban. Well, I'll tell you, there's a reason, I just wanted to say, there's a reason why this wasn't considered in the Roslyn study, because it's Fort Meyer Heights, which is a very distinct, different community, and several neighborhoods actually adjacent to it, but of a very different nature. Some of that's lost all the time. But I must say that as we look at this, I like very much the attempt at scale. And one other thing is bonus. As we're talking about bonus, and this is part of the land use, if that's okay, that with bonus, it's a much more robust negotiation. There are no more formulas. And I just, might be slightly out of context, but I want to say that one of Rayfob's, and certainly I have requested over many, many years, is we have a concern for losing units, affordable, market affordable units. We have a much greater concern for losing residents. So for the next meeting, I hope that we will find out what happened to the people in Ellis, what the plans are here, and we've always given that a priority, but with bonus negotiations, there's an ability to actually try to get everyone right to return much better than what is allowed by the county, and we always supported at the rates that they left at.
Stuart, thank you. And one of the beauties of this meeting is some of those topics will be covered the next time, and the applicant is sitting here and making mental notes of things to make sure that they address the next time. So we appreciate that. Anything else on land use? And if not, we will go to building massing.
Yeah, I have some questions, I guess, for staff or Adam. This is not going as high as it can go. Would that, if it went higher, would that mean there could be more units on this site, or is this using up the density of units?
No, the density could go up.
Could go
Yes.
significantly, yeah. Okay. So and to the.
I mean, there would be more community benefits to be earned, but yes.
Right, but
yes,
you could get.
Yeah.
I'm assuming you're switching from concrete to concrete with stick built above?
Yes,
Okay,
correct.
so.
Yeah, we have 2 levels of podium and 5 levels.
Okay, just I wanted
And that's why it's at the height it is.
I sort of figured that when I saw that height there. Okay, I just wanted to clarify those.
Hi, actually, we were just sort of chatting on the side about that. This is a very desirable area, and it looks incredible, and I'm just wondering why we're not leveraging more of the potential density that could be used.
Yeah, the main reason why we went that way is just cost. Going to a concrete structure is much more expensive, so it just made the former work much better by going to a stick-built project. And that's mainly why we built it as we did.
We're increasingly seeing that if the permissible height is something like 136 feet or something in that range, the far more economical or really feasible route is to do the stick over podium with wood frame over concrete, and to justify going to steel and concrete construction, it would be necessary to reach 136 feet, really looking more at like 20 stories, just throwing a number out there to begin to justify the cost. So it's an economic study.
This is like the 3rd or 4th project that we've seen where it's not taking advantage of the available density. It's just going to stick built.
Yeah, we originally looked at it both ways, but through our looking at it, we realized that we couldn't go to the massive structure because math just didn't work. Really.
Brian, did you want to help add something?
Yeah, just reiterating, it's not that the pro forma works better, it's that under the concrete scenario, the pro forma does not work. It's too expensive, and then to market, you start digging really deep. You have the metro line behind you, there's all these complications with it. It's just, numbers go through.
Is the cost of materials too? Because I know, I work in DC government, we do all kinds of capital projects, so steel, I know that's all gone up. Is that a piece of this, like largely not in the conditions we're in right now?
Yeah, certainly hard costs have increased tremendously since COVID, so it's very challenging for the developer at this time, but
Brian, you would tell us that it's primarily since interest rates have gone up substantially, hard costs, which means the cost of materials, but also the cost of labor have gone up substantially, and then any other factors, but I think that's the biggest two right there.
Yeah, that's right. And concrete's just been,
Yeah.
so wood
Yeah,
frame
technology, yeah.
It's kind of hard to believe that we are foregoing a significant amount of density. The project is not financially feasible by building it out of concrete.
Such a shame, particularly in that area where it would be just a great location to have more density.
Yeah, I was intrigued by one of the slides where Mr. Pennington talked about maximizing the sun exposure. Well, the northeast corner of this project minimizes the sun exposure to some of the units in Belvedere, and we were talking amongst ourselves of asking for step backs, not setbacks, which in the northeast corner, so that the remaining light that we have is maintained. And you have shadow studies. I don't know if you have them with you.
We do.
We can look at them.
yeah, we can bring up the shadow
I
study.
don't have it on my phone, so.
Yeah. If we could see the,
Okay, the presentation. I don't think so.
Or are they not?
We can email them to you quickly. Yeah, Bernie will email it to you, Adam, real quickly, and then maybe you can,
Yeah.
is that gonna work?
I don't know. We might waste some time trying to do that. Why don't we go ahead and try and we can maybe talk about different topic while we're trying.
When you're talking,
Can I ask a related question?
Actually,
yes, Eric.
Send it to me and I'll share my screen.
yeah,
Oh, there
that's,
you go.
here, thank you,
Even
that's better.
All right, I have a unique question.
Sure.
I don't know if this is staff, maybe you all can weigh into it as well. At what floor are we usually looking at setbacks? Isn't it usually like 4 or 5? Like, or I'm sorry,
We're talking about
setbacks.
probably the
Setbacks.
top 2 floors.
Yeah. But
The
typically.
staff is, I mean, in this case, we are agnostic on step back.
Sure.
We have no policy guidance requiring or recommending any step back for this particular building. So generally speaking, you know, it's usually a site-by-site basis based on the adopted planning guidance for each site. Or if there's zoning requirements, Clarendon, for instance.
They also technically address the public realm.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's true. With the shadows, that's usually the concern is shadow impact on public space, because obviously every building casts a shadow. And, you know, there are certain areas and certain sector plans where we have identified usually public space or open space that we want to preserve light in that area. This is not the case for this site.
I would say big picture, the site has existed in its current state for a very long time. And I think all of us fully understand that folks are going to get used to what's there. But I think we're bringing in a higher and better use, and it will involve some change. But I think it's for the better for everybody.
Okay, so we will see the shadow study shortly.
Yeah, whatever. Just let it know.
Okay. Other things on massing while we're waiting? Yes, Jim?
One thing I do want to massive. Normally, I would say no, having a parking garage being exposed to the sidewalk. But because this is adaptive reuse, something that's there, that's such an amazingly good thing that it's like, okay, I'm not going to make the slightest objection to that, because I think we really have to do more of this reuse of something that's already there. So I'm really impressed that we were creative enough to be able to do that. So that's one of the real attractions I see of this project right now, is being able to use that embedded energy and just leave it there. And have it really useful. So I'm totally content with what you're doing on that part of Fairfax Drive.
And we have an architectural screen on that side too, to kind of
Oh, right, and I know you'll have to do that, but normally it would be, a screen wouldn't be good enough. It's like, no, we're not gonna have parking right up against the sidewalk. If you were doing it new, it wouldn't pass. But doing it this way, total pass as far as I'm concerned.
Understood. Thank you for the comment.
This might be the one instance where Band-Aid is okay.
Right.
Right. Okay, shadow study, we're gonna, can we go full screen on it? Can we zoom in? maybe?
I am going to try to do that. Sorry. Yeah, sorry, I have some mental trick here because I got a mouse in one hand.
How much money did we spend on this conference, Ryan?
It's working right now.
Oh, what a dig.
It's okay. I'm just kidding. Nick, if you could orient us to which of
The
these you'd like us
northeast
to
corridor,
zoom
the
in?
northeast corner,
Which time of
Kevin is
day?
gonna guide you through these,
Okay.
maybe
Yeah, I would-
Tyler, but he can show you and we can explain the impacts on this one.
Okay.
All right, it's a little bit difficult to see, but the middle one and the middle right are probably the most useful ones. And I apologize, this version that you're looking at does not actually have the dates written on there. We can send that. Is that the, yeah, there's,
Yeah, so this is the middle and this is the middle.
right. So the one to the left there is at,
Thanks.
yeah, I believe that one is at noon. And if you pan down, noon on the middle of June, and then that bottom one is noon in the winter time, so it's not getting any shade. And if you look on the right side there, that is in the winter time at 6 o'clock, and it's casting more of a shadow. And if you pan to the one up from there, right, that one is at, I believe that one's at 3 p.m. I'm sorry, I think these two on the right are at 3 p.m. But we're happy to send that to the staff.
Yeah, we can send it out to staff and to the Belvedere. I think when we reviewed this internally, one of the takeaways was that there was a bit of shade cast onto the swimming pool, and I want to say June. And then in other months, the impact was far less.
Yeah, it's really late in the afternoon. After 3 o'clock, the shadow starts, coming across the pool, and by 6 o'clock, you can see it gets
Not
to
the
the
pool,
end.
the pool deck, a small portion of the pool deck.
That's not in any of the
Okay.
stuff.
No, that is not.
Leslie, did you have something else
I did,
to
but
say?
I think it goes under, I don't know if it's building massing or not, but the people, I guess on the first, well, it's depending on which presentation is the fifth floor where it tops out, but let's say from the people from our tier 22 to 26, I'm not going to talk about block views because I know there's no right to view, but it's a kind of boring wall that they're going to see of just building, no variation, no articulation, nothing. So at least make it more interesting than what's there now.
Appreciate it. No.
Pass this back.
Thank you. All right. So, hearing that there's nothing else on building massing, so does anyone want to talk about architecture?
You.
I looked at you first.
So I'll pick up on Leslie's comment. I think the building is a little bit too long, right? I'm sure it's one of the things. And I was noticing that there are some plays on heights with the volumes that protrude out. The contrast is not sufficient. It's not reading through. It's coming a little bit oppressive as this like very long linear thing. And then I was questioning a little bit the grid. So there's this like very regimented grid of the windows, but within the windows, there's like this playfulness and it's, I think what you're trying to do makes sense, but at some point it's just creating a neither here nor there outcome. And I'm just struggling a little bit with this. And then I'm also, I have to echo staff's concern, using cementitious panels on this, and given the size of it and given the detailing, it's very
I don't know, I'm nervous about it, that's where I'm at. A few examples that I'd like to cite, I think it's the Audi or the VW headquarters out in Dulles. That's a building that takes a very, very disciplined approach to a grid. And it really understands that grids become effective on their detailing and their materiality. So I think if you can sort of start to transition to that, the sort of playfulness of the buttons on the windows is sort of contrasting a little bit in a not constructive way. That's sort of my quick reaction. I think the other thing is the verticality of the masses. I know that as Commissioner Lantelmi was saying, the 5th story, the stick built, yeah, I get it. But it's just such a strong horizontal datum across that entire facade. Is there some way to make those parapets either lower on the sort of background part of the mass and go higher so that there's more contrast and a little bit more of like articulation? And I think this is a little bit what Leslie was talking about. You know, it's just such a long, you know, linear mass. And it is a difficult design problem. I'm not making light of that for sure. But I just feel like it's really heavy, you know, and I think you're aware of that because there's a lot of this color shift and the materiality shift, you know. So I think you're getting to some of the points, but just articulating the corner. And the other thing is the entrance, you know, I'm assuming it's sort of on that red block right in the center, which again, you're aware of the problem, so that's good. I think we're you know, it needs to be a little bit stronger. Maybe this red needs to go away, the one on the right. You know, there's just a few things that I think you need to sort of revisit and make sure. You know, it's almost like when you write that essay, you take a couple of days away, step back, and then you get back to it. So I think if you could do a little bit of exercise like that, just step back, divorce yourself from sort of all the issues that are bubbling on your head and just look at it sort of objectively, which is kind of where we're at. So, you know, this is the fun of coming to the SPRC. You get some fresh eyes on the project. I think, yeah, and then I think Tony's concern about the entrance and how that goes. I wasn't fully aware of the 16th Road issue, but I think, you know, just look for the paths of desires and where people are going to access the building, you know, because either you have it the way you want it or you're going to have it the way that they want it. And, you know, the latter is not always the best way, including the neighbors, right? Having people cutting through your property on an undesired location. And again, I'm not super savvy on the site details. All right, but that's about it. That's all I have. And if I think of anything else, I'll bring it up.
Jim?
Appreciate it. Thank you.
Jim?
Yeah, I go over almost everything that Commissioner Sullivan was saying, because when I first looked at this, first struck me also, this is an enormous building. It's a huge, long building. And I appreciate breaking it up into 2 distinct looks, which helps a lot. I really like the big notch in the eastern side of the building where you have all the amenities. That I think helps tremendously. That's really good. The western building is like, it's so much. It just seems like it goes on and on and on and on. It's like almost impressive. Maybe dividing that building into 2 different types of design. I'm not the architect here. Neil is, but it just keeps going on and on and on. I also agree about the door, the entrance. You really want to make that really stand out. This is where you come into this. That's one thing, and it isn't just this. We've raised this on a lot of projects that come on board. Where's the front door? Where you go in? And I think you've made some attempts on that, but I'd like to be really even more prominent. The far corner where the bike room comes in, maybe that could also be, as a practical matter, that is going to be another entrance, because people go in there for a bicycle, drop their bicycle, they won't have to come back out. They'll already be able to keep up into the building itself.
Yes.
So you already really have a potential second entrance right there. It almost seems like it wants to be another entrance there and make it more prominent that way. That would be, I think, really pretty cool. So you know, that would give a little more distinction to that part of the building, that whole western building. And you know, I agree about the materials. Should be a fairly sophisticated building in this neighborhood. So you really want what reads as better quality materials on this facade. So anyway, those are just some comments that I've got. Just
And I have a comment too. I mean, in looking at the engagement comments, there were a number of comments made about the blocky feel of it and what we can do to make it seem less that way, which are along the same lines of what they were saying without being as sophisticated in their words, especially Leo, which I don't even know half the stuff he just said, but I knew where it was going.
I'm hoping Kevin picked up on it.
I'll get it by the end of this.
Don't worry, I'm starting to understand.
Stuart.
A lot of what Leo said was very interesting, and I would hope as things are fine-tuned, is to hold on to some of its illusions, some of it is some tapering, but the tapering effect, the verticality of breaking up, but the idea is getting as much effect as you can of setting back the facade and actual setbacks or something that you all is where my community are coming from. And of course, we totally, just so you know, in terms of our support, Redcom totally support the Blvd or whatever concerns they have. Not just with architecture, but throughout.
Go ahead.
I'm not sure if this counts as architecture, but I noticed when it comes to the makeup of the different types of units, that there were only 12 446 per floor, 3 bedrooms. And something that the commission has largely focused on is making these accessible to families. And I was wondering, have you all given thought to expanding that number of 3 bedrooms? And I also want to point out too that I like the preservation of the affordable units in the building. I know that's part of the law, but I'm happy you're doing it either way. And so I wanted to hear your thoughts on 3-bedroom units and how you think and families can accommodate living in these buildings.
One of the team can speak to the bedroom distribution.
Yeah, I mean, it's studying, all the RV corridor building design, buildings around here. I think that we do see the way we distribute the units is based on demand that we see, right? And we actually see less. There is some demand for 3 bedrooms, but not a tremendous amount. I think part of that comes down to price point, size, and things like that. Is that true family, a lot of families actually do want homes if they can afford it. Or move out to the suburbs, how long do they live there? Maybe they'll be there for a year, and then once they have the second kid, they'll move out. So what we see in our data is that we don't see a tremendous amount of demand for 3 bedrooms, and that's why it's a small percentage.
Thank you. Could that be a chicken and egg thing? Like, since there aren't that many 3-bedroom units, people don't ask for it, and I'm just curious. Could that be a possibility? And I think also the other thing is, as we transition from a suburban to a more urban, people are going to have to learn to live in more non-residential, single-family home type thing. So I'm just pontificating, but yeah, just something that I've been thinking about.
Yeah, I mean, honestly, we end up running into roommates a lot of the time. That's about how it ends up. We sit here and think about how it's going to work out with these families. What the reality is, especially in a post-COVID world, when you have that second kid, maybe one person works from home, they want to look for space. We don't see a lot of
One of the biggest things I've just kind of read generally about the industry is that once you get to a 3-bedroom unit really anywhere in the corridor, the rent, the market rate for that unit is going to be competitive with potentially renting, a townhome or a single-family home, or even, purchasing something, right? Whether that's a condo, whether that's, a single-family home, whether that's a townhome, it's just you're starting to deal with a pretty sizable chunk of change per month, just understanding where rent is in Arlington right now and how big the units are. I mean, you can look up what the rent is, for example, if there's, I think the Christmas Square apartments have a few 4-bedroom units, something truly big, and that's, I think, owned by WAC. But, the last time I looked, the rent was really high. I bet it's even higher now. If you're talking like $5,000-6,000 a month at that point, there's a lot of options at that price point. So.
Well, and I will echo that, being in residential real estate, that we do get people often that are looking for 3 bedrooms, and they just can't afford them here. And so from a developer standpoint, at least my observation is to construct them, it's either it has to be a lot smaller to even make it marketable. If you can't do the 3 bedrooms, how about 2 bedrooms and a den in some cases, so that we could at least accommodate that? Because again, from a residential standpoint, we've got people that want them. There's nothing around here that, most people are willing to afford. Karen?
And this is going to be a conversation for the next meeting, of course, but, something we've been talking as a commission quite a bit is about affordable units. And, a lot of them are not larger than 2 bedrooms, and having some space for those units to be designated for families who do need 3 bedrooms. We'll have that fun conversation the following.
The next, yes, we will.
Let's prepare for that.
Yeah, to dovetail with that, I think in the next meeting, we'll be interested in kind of learning more about what we know about the current residents at the Williamsburg and Ellis Arms apartments, the outreach, what do we know about who's actually occupying like the units, whenever we're with these situations where it's always like, okay, what's really kind of under the hood and what do folks know? And it might be a 2-bedroom unit, but how many people actually live there? And it's always a challenge, right? And so just like to learn more about that in October.
Yeah, I think we can just briefly say that we know that Ellis Arms is vacant, correct?
Yeah, no, I can speak briefly on this, just to give a bit of a review. So the Ellis Arms, it was part of the prior approval. I actually took it through the Tenant Landlord Commission, the approval of relocation plan, which was an interesting series of meetings. But that was approved, and the tenants of the Ellis have all left, and so the Ellis remains vacant. There are tenants in the Williamsburg apartments. I want to say there's about 12 units occupied.
Yeah.
Okay. And so we will be submitting a tenant relocation plan, the same as we did with the Ellis Arms apartments. That's required by the site plan conditions. That happens post-approval, but I've already drafted it with obviously the help of both folks who are sitting behind me. And the our team has that now. There are requirements in there to fill out a tenant profile, to find out who's living there, all of that stuff. So we'll be working on that because our timeline on this project too, like we want to get moving, which means that we need to do everything we're supposed to do with the existing residents as well. So we're on top of that stuff. We can talk about it for next time. But generally speaking, yes, there will be, a profile done. We'll investigate, ensure that we know who's living there. Everybody's going to be eligible for relocation payments if they're in good standing. And there are a series of guidelines that the county publishes that essentially provide exactly what we have to put in the relocation plan that y'all could look up if you're interested in reviewing them. Google the Arlington County Tenant Relocation Guidelines. You'll see what folks are intended to get in a situation like this.
I just add to that, if I may, our outreach, tenants and the happiness of tenants is what we earn our reputation off of and how we continue to lease units. And so our outreach as a company will begin well in advance of our required guidelines of the county. Speak with the people and to assist them in their relocation.
Important topic, thank you for.
Yes.
I don't want to go us off into a different area, but I do just want to remind that we're very, Rayford is very concerned about well beyond that. The individuals who live there now, not just relocating them, their ability to come back. And back to land use, with bonus, that's, the county would be great if the county finally stood up to it and negotiated, and it's a reasonable amount of people. I don't know what the status of the Ellis people are. Certainly if there are 12 units of Williamsburg people. It's a reasonable thing to be talking about with bonus discussions, making sure they have an opportunity to project.
Well, I think we'll have some our housing experts here next time. I'm not sure if I'm understanding what
With bonus, in other words, there are formulas for everything. And there are very specific guidelines for relocation benefits. But when you go beyond the underlying density and you get into bonuses as being asked here, the county could actually take a position, although they have not yet, of
Of asking for more affordable housing, you're saying?
Not more affordable housing, but for relocation and the ability of these people to return. It happens sometimes, it rarely happens altogether, but it's something people have to ask for, and the county hasn't been willing to negotiate for in a bonus discussion in the past.
Yeah, I'm not actually aware of that, but we can,
Yeah, at
we
least
can
it's been our
talk more about that
We've
next time.
noted it, yeah, we've noted it, thank you. Any other comments about architecture?
I guess I'll make something that's in my mind. So first of all, kudos and appreciation for keeping the garage. Absolutely. I will not argue with that. I've never seen 3 garage doors for the transformers or what do they call the transformer wall? Yeah, can you talk about that a little bit and why we have to do it that way? And I've never seen that before, so I'm a little bit curious.
Yeah, we kind of have a unique transformer vault. Normally you would see it low grade, but here the site is kind of constrained. So it's kind of like a lateral transformer vault. So we have to be able to pull each of those transformer vaults out in case, say, one goes down. So that's why there's 3 transformers total, and so you have to be able to pull one out. And it's required by Dominion.
Are they
Yeah, a lot of that
sliding
below grade.
design requirements?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Dominion
I
has
could-
shifting rules too. It did happen at the Kirkwood, but the Kirkwood has 4 sides to the building that face alleys and streets and stuff, and so they put it in between the Kirkwood, which is now I think the Modera, and then what will be the future YMCA site. So that'll be facing that building, but
Right.
so here it's on Fairfax, which is where we need to be.
And it was open to below on the second, on P2. So is it slightly below the sidewalk level or is it at the sidewalk level?
It's that grade.
At grade.
Kevin, I cut you off.
I can probably shed some light on that. Dominion changed the rules. They'll no longer allow you to put a vault in public space, so it's never going to be under a public sidewalk. They give you 2 choices. You can put it in the ground, open to infinity above, or you can do this horizontal vault, and there's specific requirements. It couldn't go on North Pierce Street. The grade's too steep. They couldn't get the rigging in there to put the vault on North Pierce Street, so it had to go on Fairfax Drive. And it has to be a grade, and there's a lot of rules about how much height, depth, and width you have to have around these.
And they have to be parallel facing the street. You can't like stack up series.
Yeah.
Yeah, we couldn't put it back in. They really tie your hands.
Okay.
I mean, if you did put it back in, you would still have 3 transformer vault doors. Our first plan was, well, let's do 1 door and we'll put a big vault in there and you can have lots of space to move them in and out. Dominion would not allow us to do that.
So I guess the follow-up question is any sort of Band-Aid now that we're in the situation, to treat these doors, to create some sort of interest, to create some sort of activity, lighting, I don't know,
That was the,
Well, those were the things with the screens.
Okay, that wasn't on the garage side.
That's
Okay.
That's what we're gonna, yeah.
And this was one of the things that staff wanted to hear about, so what do you, does anyone have comments, pros, cons?
It's sort of actually, I feel like if they actually do the tree sort of thing, it's a natural look on it, so, yeah.
That's what staff
They're
wanted.
doing it.
I like the way you're taking the trees from the park, just bringing them.
And it's kind of interesting, when I first saw it on a rendering, I thought it was the shadow from the street trees casting on the building. But it wasn't, it was,
I think
it
it's
was
cool.
this effect.
All right, well, thanks for the explanation.
Okay. Any other comments, questions, architecture, building mass, land use, and I think we covered all of those topics too.
We have.
Yes.
Yeah.
Oh, go ahead, I'm sorry.
Can I ask a question on land use? This probably was in the presentation somewhere. What's the total percentage of building space versus the lot space?
Lot coverage? Yes.
Yeah, complete lot coverage.
I don't know off the top of my head, but we can tell you that. But I can get back to you with that information.
Yeah, to me, it just seems, when this kind of goes with the whole boxy concept and seeing if we can use more space. First of all, the courtyard looks small for, 450 some odd units, you're gonna have well over 1,000 people in there. And you have only that one courtyard and the little corner space there, which doesn't seem, there's no exit out of the building. That corner space on the west side there doesn't seem, that's gonna be useful or accessible really to people. So to me, it just seems more green space would be useful here. And kind of separate question, but on that west space, if that's gonna be your kind of drainage area for on-site, aren't you going up grade, going east to west? And so if that's where a lot of the water, the retention is gonna be, is that gonna create a problem if the grade is going down to the east?
No, it's kept low on the site, and there's existing retaining walls, and there's a lot of retainage along North Pierce Street as you move from south to north. So that's actually fairly low current grade, and it's set low in the building, and it naturally outfalls to the storm.
And the west courtyard is our bioretention.
Yeah, so basically, Rob, you're probably saying, could there be less massing?
Yes.
Yes, okay. Because we're going to be talking at the next meeting about, bioretention and all those other things. But yes, so we've got that, yeah. Okay, so Leslie?
I have this meeting or the next meeting where you talk about sidewalk,
Next.
Next.
Okay.
Yes. So save that good thought. So, yes, Rob?
I have a whole lot more for the next meeting too. I'm not sure if this one is for this meeting or not, but
We'll
this is
tell
more
you.
of a question. When you mentioned the amenity space and the glass zone inside, what are the amenities?
That will be next time.
That's next week?
That's next.
Well, if you're talking about like building amenities, we can
Oh,
talk
Billy,
about
yes,
that.
that's fine.
Is we plan on having, obviously, the pool deck. There's going to be a co-working area for, obviously, more people working from home now with COVID. We're also planning on having kind of some top level, like an indoor spa and sauna. So like a dry sauna, wet sauna, indoor cold plunge, and hot tub.
Can I go to that?
Go with this building, yes.
Depends on the final outcome.
This is recorded, it's being recorded, right? And we are in talks with having like kind of a small coffee shop area as well.
That's what I was asking. You're gonna have over 1,000 people. Where are people gonna run down and get their half gallon of milk in the morning or whatever? Like, there's on the front, there's no retail along the front or sidewalk or anywhere else. And in that amenity space, the coffee shop would be great. Yeah, like a convenience store or something like that within that amenity area. It'd be great to have it street facing too, so it's not just for the residents, but to create more of the community feel so that residents from the neighboring buildings could also go and use those stores, and that maybe more useful for the building owners too.
For the coffee, we plan on letting other people come in and use it. And then we also have the rooftop amenity, which is just basically just a sun deck with grills and that sort of thing. And then also a dog walk on top of the roof as well.
So can I ask, how big is the dog walk on the top of the roof, and how many dogs do you anticipate having in here? Because that's kind of a small space.
As we've shown, it's about 2,500 square feet.
And space for big dog and small dog, separate big dog, small dog?
Yes.
I'm impressed that you designed that yet. Say it's exceptional.
I just told you how big we drew it. It does have two sides.
Okay, good.
Where's the dog walk on
It's, right where my
Right
cursor
there.
is, yes.
Jim?
We're touching on the roof. It's a big roof. So are you planning to do more up there, like having a green space or having solar panels or something like that, rather than just having a roof?
I do know that there
This is
are.
mostly next time, but.
Yeah, I'll hold it to
That's
that.
okay.
We have a little bit of
Just
time.
briefly.
It's okay.
Come back.
Just briefly.
I mean, I know that there's some constraints structurally with what you guys can accomplish up there. Why don't you go ahead and tell us what you can have plans so far for the rooftop and how it can be designed?
Yeah, so right now, we mainly have the sky bridge or the sky area on where you see main lobby, that whole area. That's like kind of the grill section. Unfortunately, because it is wood construction, it's really hard to do a green roof on a wood structure. Yeah.
It's waterproofing. So
You have to have 2 feet of soil cover and
That I know.
can't do any sort of green roof.
But solar panels could go.
And again, we will hold that discussion for the next one,
Okay,
because that
that's
is part of the next, that's fine.
Yeah,
Part of the
and
next
so the requirement
conversation.
is either you do it on-site, the on-site power generation, or there's an option to instead contribute, so. That's
It's just
something
that
to talk
I
about.
think, I think roofs being wasted.
Yeah, it's okay. Those are good questions.
Okay, so is there anything else on land use, building massing, architecture? We got his concerns taken care of. We're good. So do we have public comments?
Well, let me just check online real quick,
Yes,
Barnes.
let's check online first, yeah.
And then we have Mr. Lawson here raising his hand. I don't think we have any right here. No, no public comment online yet.
Okay, so we will instead, first, then we will go to public comment here in the room. Barnes, did you have a public
Oh, you
comment?
want me to go ahead?
Yes, because
Okay.
normally we do online, but it doesn't look like we have anyone online.
Yeah, the Belvedere supports this, and when I help communities, I don't oppose zonings, but I do help with, details. And Leslie had mentioned that we'd like a step back in that northeast corner. And we're not saying delete units, we're saying shift them and move them. And I brought this issue to a couple of my clients that do development, and they had suggested, I don't know if Orb would think this is a good idea or not, but they had, a lot of the builders now are creating like living space. So you have your unit, you have a setback, and then that unit can have the roof of the unit that is below it, but beside it, and that could be an area that they can use and, for outdoor entertainment. And I was thinking that we could shift some of the units to that long western expanse. And you would have, instead of having the one, you could shift them to there. And I know you would maybe have to do some concrete, but again, you could create nice outdoor space on the roofs where you have that setback. So anyhow, that's kind of, that it was very important to folks over at Belvedere. And I know Nick's going to wait for all the comments and then, they'll make whatever changes. But that's something that I think is important. And I know nobody has a right to a view, but it seems like it's different when you have nowhere else you can put units versus here you do. So anyhow, I'll be quiet now.
No, Bruce, thank you. Thank you. Do we have any others here in the room, public comments here in the room? I don't think we have any other public. We do have Dr. Byrne online. Dr. Byrne, you'll have 2 minutes. So go ahead.
Hello, can you hear me?
Yes, we can. Thank you.
Okay. The building lacks setbacks from the sidewalk that contain biophilic elements, including ground level plantings that are both attractive and would help reverse the county's declining populations of monarch butterflies and other pollinators. A portion of the Fairfax Drive East Lobby area contains an above-grade planter box that is in front of the garage screen. This is not enough. Most of Fairfax Drive and Pierce Street frontings need to contain planter boxes or open areas that can that can accommodate native plants that support monarch butterflies and other native pollinators. The planted areas on the building's upper levels are too small to provide any such benefits. The building also needs a planted green roof. There's too much pavement and too little, quote, green space next to the sidewalks in the private amenity terraces facing 16th Street North and in the 2 courtyards. The building needs a planted green roof. The submission contains a plant list that shows the species of shrubs, perennials, and ground covers. However, most plants that the applicant's plant list identify are cultivars that don't feed pollinators. Or are not native to native Northern Virginia. Many are wind-pollinated grasses and sedges that don't feed pollinators. At least they don't contain nectar that feeds most pollinators like butterflies and moths and some types of flies. There's no common milkweed, Asclepias syriaca. This is the only plant on which monarch butterflies prefer when laying eggs and which survives well in Northern Virginia. By the time that we have the next meeting, I hope the applicant will revise the plant list. I've sent them a long message about this, but I hope when we get to landscaping next meeting, they do this. The plant project lacks biophilia. It does not deserve to lead gold. As stated, it needs a green roof with plantings that feed pollinators. Native vines whose flowers produce nectar should hang from the roofs, terraces, and courtyard
Dr. Byrne,
faces.
thank you. That's 2
Okay.
minutes. And
That's
just
all.
bear in mind that we are discussing the green things next meeting. So we
I know.
appreciate your comments. And on behalf of the Monarchs, thank you for being at all of our meetings to remind us about the importance of that. So we've gone through everything. I just want to do a little bit of wrap up now.
Can
So
I preface the C2E2, just to put it on the agenda for next time too, just so you guys know the kind of stuff that we're going to raise and what we're
Sure,
interested
that would be
in.
very helpful.
Sure, we're looking to maximize electrification and reduce or eliminate fossil fuel use, so we'll be talking about that. Maximizing energy efficiency both in the building envelope as well as appliances. Reducing embodied carbon of the building materials. Maximizing natural lighting while reducing solar heat gain. Maximizing on-site renewables, and we saw 12% is of the roof is solar, and we think we'll probably do more. And planning for sufficient EV charging in the garage. So those are some of the topics that we'd like to put on the agenda.
It's very helpful. Thank you. All right, so apart from what Rob just said, these are sort of summarizing what we talked about, looking at the main entrance, trying to do something to make it stand out. We want to hear more about setbacks and sidewalks, which is of course next time. The question about why there isn't more density here came down to cost. There's still some question about the northeast corner and the light, the step back, and shadow studies, which we'll make clearer next time. Everybody likes the reuse of the garage. Talks about the interesting view versus the wall that goes back to the length of the building, the grid, the detailing. The western entrance, the bike room, make that more prominent. 3-bedroom units, the challenges there. Tenant relocation, more information on that the next time, and then lot coverage. And I think that pretty much covers everything we talked about. So unless anybody has anything else, we will see you on, what is it, October 19th?
Yes.
October 19th, and we'll talk about these other topics. So thank you again, everyone, for coming, and for commenters for making your comments, and we'll see you then. Have a great evening.
Thank you.
Thank you.